So let's dive into a really pivotal moment in early Islamic history. It's not a story that takes place on a battlefield or in some big public forum. Nope. This all happens in the quiet of a home. And it's sparked by a vision that was both absolutely terrifying and completely life-changing. This is the story of how a private man was called to a very, very public mission. Imagine hearing those words, not as just a simple request, but shouted with this deep, gut-wrenching fear. "Cover me! Cover me!" These were the words of the Prophet Muhammad, right after an experience that shook him to his absolute core. So what on earth could have happened to cause a reaction like that? To really get why he was so scared, we've got to rewind the tape just a few moments. Now, this whole event happened after a period where divine revelation had actually stopped for a while. So you can imagine there was this sense of waiting, maybe even some uncertainty in the air. Okay, so picture this. The prophet is walking, probably just alone with his thoughts, and then suddenly a sound from the sky just completely shatters the silence. It's totally out of nowhere. And, instinctively, he looks up, and what he sees just stops him dead in his tracks. The accounts from that time say he was immediately incredibly frightened. But what was it? What could possibly be so huge, so awe-inspiring that it would send a man running for his life back to his own home? Well, the source of that terror was a celestial being. But here's the thing, this wasn't actually his first encounter with this angel. To really understand this moment, you need just a little bit of context. See, this didn't just happen in a vacuum. He'd already had that very first revelation, way back in the cave of Hira. But then, nothing. A pause, a period of suspension. This new sighting, this vision, was the dramatic, incredible end of that silence. So he recognizes the angel, for sure, but the scale of it all is just on another level. This time, the angel isn't in some narrow cave. No, he's sitting on a colossal throne that literally fills the entire space between the heavens and the earth. Can you even imagine that? The sheer size and majesty of it was just completely overwhelming. And this is that raw human response we were talking about. He just bolts. He hurries home to his wife, his heart pounding out of his chest, and he says those words we started with, "Cover me, cover me." He's just looking for comfort, for safety from what he's just seen. But it's in this exact moment, wrapped up in a cloak, that his real mission is about to begin. Because right then, as he's lying there, covered and trying to calm down, the message comes. It's not a vision this time, it's words. 5 very specific commands that would basically lay out the blueprint for the rest of his life. And here they are. "O you who are wrapped up, arise and warn, magnify your Lord, purify your garments, and keep away from impurity." It's said that from this moment forward, the revelation just started to flow continuously. This was the turning point. All right, so let's get into the crucial part. What do these commands actually mean? They're super short, right? Very direct, but each one is just packed with layers of meaning. Let's break down the spiritual core behind each one. So the first 2 really establish the entire public mission. Arise and warn is a direct call to action. It's saying, get up, stop being a private person, and go public, guide people. And what's the message he's supposed to give them? That's the next line. Magnify your Lord. This is the theological heart of it all. That command, magnify your Lord, is basically a call to proclaim what's known as Tawheed. And this is the absolute central pillar of Islam, the belief in the complete, absolute oneness of God. No partners, no equals, just one. Now, the next commands are really cool because they have these 2 layers to them. Purify your garments. Okay, on the surface, that's pretty simple. It's about being physically clean, presentable. But the deeper meaning is so much more. It's about purifying your heart, your character, your actions, your very soul. And it's the same with keep away from impurity. Yeah, it means stay away from physical dirt. But way more importantly, it's a command to avoid all kinds of spiritual and moral gunk. Specifically, it's a direct order to reject the main spiritual impurity of that time and place, idolatry. And that spiritual impurity, that act of idolatry, it has a name, shirk. It's the act of associating partners with God, which is the exact opposite of Tawheed. So this command is drawing a fundamental moral and theological line in the sand for this new faith. So When you put it all together, what we're really witnessing is this incredible transformation. You have this moment of intense, very personal fear that becomes the launch pad for a mission that would, quite literally, change the world. I mean, this just captures the shift perfectly, doesn't it? Before this whole event, he's a private individual, he's in a state of rest, and he's overcome by a very personal fear. Then, after these verses come down, boom. He's a public messenger, he's commanded to get up and warn people, and he's handed this incredibly noble, divine responsibility. And that's the ultimate takeaway here. The man who was literally seeking refuge under a cloak was being called out from under it. These verses, right here, marked the official start of his public ministry. This was the moment the weight of carrying a message for all of humanity was placed squarely on his shoulders. And that leaves us with a pretty fascinating question to think about. This story, even though it's rooted in a specific time and a specific faith, it really speaks to something universal, right? That journey from a personal conviction to public action. It makes you wonder, for anyone, what is that spark? What does it take to turn a private belief into a life's mission?